Our CBS News Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues has been speaking with his law enforcement sources. Here's what he learned about the gunman.
After Stephen Pegues checked into the Mandalay Bay Resort Hotel in Las Vegas last Thursday, investigators say he spent the next 3 days gambling in the casino. And he stockpiled a cache of 19 weapons, a mixture of handguns and rifles, in his hotel rooms. 2 of the guns were on tripods. Police and the FBI are now trying to determine a motive.
We're shocked, horrified, completely dumbfounded about this.
Eric Pegues, the killer's brother, says he was interviewed by investigators for about 4 hours.
The fact that he had those kind of weapons is just... Where the hell did he get automatic weapons?
Nothing. Or anything?
Nothing. No religious affiliation, no political affiliation, no, he just hung out.
Stephen Pegues was an accountant, but family members say recently he was a professional gambler who'd won large jackpots. He was also a licensed hunter and pilot who had rented, owned, and sold multiple properties in 4 states over the last 4 decades. Pegues' father was once on the FBI's most wanted list. The 1969 notice described Benjamin Hoskins Pegues as a bank robber who was psychopathic and considered armed and very dangerous. Until last night's mass shooting, Stephen Pegues' only run-in with law enforcement was this 2009 parking ticket.
It was well planned out, and it took a lot of strategic thinking. And
former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole says Pegues may have been planning the attack for years.
He had a view of the concert, and he probably had gone to other rooms and chose specifically this room. So there was surveillance that likely occurred before this event.
A search of Pegues' home turned up 18 additional weapons, thousands of rounds of ammunition and explosives. Today, ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, but investigators say so far they have not found a link between Pegues and the terrorist group. Elaine.
Well, Jeff, we saw your piece there, but what more can you tell us about the shooter at this point?
Well, investigators have obviously been talking to neighbors, people who have known him over the years, trying to get a better picture of who he was and what may have led up to this mass shooting in Las Vegas. And so it's still early on in this investigation and still no clear picture of what the motive is or was for the shooting. But investigators are doing their best right now to figure out who he was, where he was in the days before he checked into that hotel on the 28th of September. And so they still have a lot of questions that they're trying to answer. And to do that, you're going to have to gather evidence from all the different states that he's lived in over the years and talk to all of the people, or as many people as you possibly can, who've had contact with him.
Well, in earlier reporting, you said that Pegues did not fit law enforcement's profile of a mass shooter. What makes him different in that sense?
Well, we've talked to law enforcement sources on this issue, and we've talked to Mary Ellen O'Toole, who's a FBI or former FBI criminal profiler, and what she says is that he is an outlier, and what really stood out to her was his age, the fact that he was 64 years old, and he didn't seem to be antisocial, but also he didn't have any major run-ins with police. As you saw in my reporting in that piece, he had a parking ticket from 2009. So this is not someone who was really on law enforcement radar leading up to this shooting. And that's why, you try to put some of these incidents in a category, and you really can't do that with this one, at least not yet, based on what investigators know and what they've told the press.
Jeff, I know you talked about motive and how it seems to be elusive right now, at least at this early phase, and sheriffs had said they'd searched his home, finding that stockpile of weapons that you mentioned. Was there any clue at all, any little bit of information that you've been told about that could possibly shed some light on a motive?
Well, nothing seems apparent right now. I mean, there is this talk about the fact that he was a gambler, gambling large sums of money, but it's unclear at this point whether that had anything to do with triggering this mass shooting. I mean, if you just look at the way this unfolded, the fact that he was accumulating, stockpiling all these weapons in that hotel room, and the fact that he aimed those weapons on that crowd, 22,000 people down below. It is really remarkable when it sinks in, when you really think about what unfolded in this mass attack. And you talk to law enforcement sources and the FBI, or the former FBI profiler. She believes that this is something that he was planning for some time. But again, it is still early on. I know a lot of people want answers for this one. It's still early on, though, and investigators still have a lot of work to do.
All right. Jeff Pegues in Washington for us. Jeff, thank you.